Happy Days is filmed before a live audience.
Fond memories of Windows 95. You start it up, you navigate to the fun stuff, videos, MPEG folder, you click on Weezer, and you get a full music video on your desktop PC. This was the height of 1995 technology, almost. But if you want a chance to win the height of today's technology, then sponsor Fasthosts. Have the ultimate work from home bundle up for grabs later in this video. I've got to go back to the office now. But why is this even on the Windows 95 CD-ROM? I mean, it's tucked away in several subfolders on the actual installation CD. It's hardly prominent. You have to browse to it and then open it. It just feels out of place, like an afterthought in so many ways. But yet it has become synonymous with Microsoft's groundbreaking operating system. So why did Weezer come with Windows 95? To understand this situation, we first have to go back to 1991 with the launch of MS-DOS 5.
To the Microsoft MS-DOS 5 upgrade training. This is the first time MS-DOS has been available as an upgrade. It's new!
This was about as exciting as an operating system launch got in the early 90s. A computer scientist rapping about how exciting it is to upgrade your command line driven OS. Don't get me wrong, I would have been sold in a heartbeat, but many wouldn't. This was the new radical 90s, the MTV generation. Out were Walkmans, in were Discmans, out were stop motion movie effects, in was the incredulity of CGI animation, out were computers just for nerds, and in were computers for, well, everyone. So Microsoft needed a new approach. In fact, everyone needed a new approach. Apart from you, Sega. You were bang on the money. For the time being. Maybe the release of Windows 3.1 in April 1992 would sort things out.
The biggest change taking place in software is the move to the graphical environment. Microsoft made an early commitment to the graphical approach because we saw that it offered many significant benefits. One of those is making
No.
In this video, you're going to see the future. Windows. Microsoft first came up with...
Bill, just stop it, for Christ's sake. Microsoft had an image problem and it wasn't going to fix itself. In the early to mid-90s, things moved slower. The World Wide Web was in its emerging stages and would only start to be used by universities or people extremely embedded in the tech industry by 1993 onwards. The general public barely had a clue what it even was. And social media wasn't even a glint in anyone's eye, so the options for companies to get their messages out were limited. You could do TV advertising, as we've seen. You could launch a promotional VHS and give it away, as we've seen. You could run an advert in the media or conduct an interview, but to make an impact, you had to do something big, sweeping and unprecedented. But to make a sweeping statement to work, you really needed a product to back it up. Or at least a product that was in the right place at the right time. In 1994, computers weren't only seen as geeky, they were by their very design geeky. To boot into your IBM PC, you needed to be familiar with the product in that advertising, MS-DOS. MS-DOS was a command-line driven operating system, so to navigate around your hard drive, you needed to know commands. Commands like cd to change directory, dir to list the contents of your directory or folder if you prefer, del to delete files, move to move them from place to place, and to execute a program you had to navigate to its folder and then enter the file name. This is how Windows worked. Navigate to the Windows directory or set a default path to it, type win, and it would boot. Windows might have had its own memory, video and processor management features, but it still needed DOS to run. It just sat on top, providing a somewhat easy to use graphical user interface. Now sure, you could get Windows to automatically boot when starting your computer by creating a command in your autoexec.bat file, a file which automatically executed on boot. But again, for that you needed knowledge. Computers just weren't easy to use. That is, unless you had something like an Amiga, or more specifically, a Mac. When Windows 95 was announced, it promised incredible new features like plug and play, a streamlined GUI experience straight from boot, an easy-to-use task and menu system for accessing programs, long character file names, a recycle bin that let you restore files, and the ability to drop files anywhere you want on the desktop. The thing is, Mac OS already had those features. In fact, it had had them for years. So during the run-up to the Windows 95 launch, Apple would take numerous digs at Microsoft's new OS. Some segments were calling it Macintosh 87 instead of Windows 95. Apple employees at Cupertino had bumper stickers saying Windows 95 equals System 7, System 7 already being 4 years old by that point. And when Windows 95 actually launched, Apple took out a full-page ad in the Wall Street Journal mocking the 8.3 character file limit that PC users had suffered with for so long under DOS. But this negative advertising wasn't enough to raise Apple's fortunes, especially when compared to this. Oh crap, this is the wrong advert. This is that Fasthosts promotion I was talking about at the start of the video. Still, while we're here. Fasthosts is a UK-based hosting company that can support all your hobbies or businesses. For me, data is of paramount importance. Just making sure everything I film is backed up is crucial. That's why I use Fasthosts Cloud Backup, and then I don't have to worry about it. Everything is automatically stored in the cloud, even the footage I record on my mobile. Try it out and you'll get 5 GB of storage free. Or maybe you need a dedicated server to run your online business, passion project, or just an emulation server that you can play from anywhere. Well, Fasthosts' dedicated RAID servers let you customize operating system, storage, RAM, and even choose between AMD or Intel processors, with secure UK data centers, unlimited bandwidth, and 24/7 support. Now, if you reside in the UK, then Fasthosts are offering the chance for you to win the ultimate work-from-home setup by answering this techie test question. When did Microsoft release Internet Explorer 3 for Windows? That's it. Head to the link below, enter your details, and you could be in with a chance. Full terms and conditions are on the website. Now let's get back to that other advert I was talking about. Positive advertising just has more energy. It's so much more efficient at getting your message out there, and Microsoft were full of it at this point. Just look at all those things you can start doing. But as well as TV commercials accompanied by the Rolling Stones, they were running newspaper adverts, radio adverts, launching cyber sitcoms featuring Jennifer Aniston and Matthew Perry that you could pop into your video player.
The club is down the hall.
And watch it again and again and again. They were holding events in cities. They lit up the Empire State Building. They launched Windows Beer. They even gave away free copies of the Times to anyone in London who wanted one. If you could think of a form of 90s promotion, they were on it, and like I said earlier, their timing was perfect. Netscape Navigator had arrived on the scene in December 1994. This new shiny web browser allowed anyone with the technical know-how to grab a modem, plug it into their PC and start browsing the World Wide Web. Combined with the new multimedia age of sound and CD-ROM, the computer was the place to go. The most exciting thing we'd had up to this point was watching O.J. Simpson trundle down the motorway on live TV, but now an entire world of video, news, blogs, downloads, and conspiracy theories could be at our fingertips. So the spring of '95 saw a rush for universities, libraries, and cyber cafes to get people connected, and connected they got. Just in time for Windows 95 to open its arms to this world of new, excitable computer users eager to jump on the information superhighway. The official launch at Microsoft's campus in Redmond, Washington saw The Tonight Show host Jay Leno co-hosting the grand spectacle alongside the Microsoft team and, more specifically, Bill Gates. And what a show it was.
Let's go to square one. Let's go back to the basics, and I'll explain it for you. All right. And again for some of the laymen out there. This here is the mouse. This is the mouse. You move that around. This here is the mouse tail.
You can see the exact point here where Bill Gates suddenly realizes what a colossal prat he's making of himself. Just have a good time, Bill. This was the same month in which Michael Jackson held his first online chat at the Museum of Television and Radio. It was the same month that Sony showcased their Plasmatron flat-screen display. It was the same month that visitors got to try out a new range of Virtual 10 devices at the International Electronics Fair in Berlin. And it was the same month that Mikkel Furno finally got his hands on 2 copies of Windows 95, in a launch the like of which the world had never seen before, or possibly since. And it was the same month that Mikkel got home, installed 2 copies of the operating system, presumably on separate PCs, and found that Weezer's Buddy Holly was included in the rather reasonable sale price. Bargain. So why was it on there again? Right, yes, of course. Buddy Holly by Weezer was the second single from the band's self-titled debut album. Buddy Holly was released on the 7th of September 1994, what would have been Buddy Holly's 58th birthday. It reached number 2 on the US Modern Rock Tracks chart, number 6 in Canada, and number 12 in the United Kingdom. But it wasn't just an earworm, it was also an eyeworm, which sounds horrific, and I will never use again, because the music video directed by Spike Jonze placed the band within the very believable confines of a 1975 Happy Days episode, specifically Season 3, Episode 4. Edited by the excellent Eric Zumbrunnen, it was so well received that it actually won the 1995 Video Music Award for Best Alternative Video.
Spike Jonze is the greatest video director of all time, yes. Let's hear it for Spike Jonze!
But of course, these triumphs alone don't mean it automatically gets dumped onto the CD version of Microsoft's latest operating system. Other factors were at play. The first was that Microsoft needed to continue their modern and fun marketing feel onto the operating system itself, to truly rejuvenate those stagnant, crusty window frames. Let's be honest, Microsoft Bob wasn't going to cut it. They needed to show that Windows had built-in multimedia features to excite the senses and purge the mind. Clearly they didn't want the first thing you installed to be Apple's QuickTime. The second was that Geffen Records, who Weezer was signed to, were further ahead of the technological curve than even Microsoft. Microsoft might have spent millions advertising their future intentions, but a year earlier, Geffen had already been practicing what they preached, having released the first major label song for digital download. Aerosmith's Head First could be downloaded from CompuServe as a WAV file, if you were patient enough to wait at least an hour for it to do so. For most people using slower modems, it would have been several more hours. But the pairing was perfect. Digital media was something they'd had their sights on for a while, and Windows 95 seemed the perfect time to expand on that and piggyback on Microsoft's marketing campaign. A campaign that aligned the PC with the modern user, and therefore modern music, not the geek ideals of the past. I had a chance to catch up with Jim Griffin, Geffen's then Director for Technology, who told me,
"It was our mission to bring the digital delivery of art to Geffen, a mission that intersected with promoting our own art. We practiced what we preached. We spoke to the market, one another, and our vendors with an HTML-enhanced voice that crossed all platforms, Mac and Windows and Linux."
Geffen realised that the launch of Windows 95 was a mammoth, and that getting some of their acts on the installation CD would be an incredible marketing opportunity, so they made a deal. Microsoft had a good number of spare megabytes on the installation CD and realised it would work well with their marketing campaign as well.
No money changed hands. Microsoft comped our Windows 95 and Office licenses, and we provided content to include on disks. It was simply a marketing deal.
Not quite the $3 million Microsoft paid to the Rolling Stones to use Start Me Up, but this was a much more mutual deal, and it was an upcoming marketing executive named Luke Wood who had orchestrated it. Luke went on to many great achievements, including becoming president of Beats Electronics and VP at Apple, still heavily promoting digital downloads. The deal certainly helped achieve its goals. In a 2014 Magnet magazine interview, Weezer said,
"Geffen never told us that they'd negotiated a deal with Microsoft, and nobody in the band had a computer at that, so we had no idea how big a deal that was."
I was furious because at the time I was like, how are they allowed to do this without our permission? Turns out it was one of the greatest things that could have ever happened to us. Can you imagine that happening today? It's like, there's one video on YouTube and it's your video.
People were telling me, "You don't know how big this is. You're on Windows 95. I didn't know what that meant, so I never really got a grasp of how big we were becoming.
So it may have been stashed away in a folder, but Microsoft knew that people were bound to find it. After all, they found all the other features of Windows 95. But Microsoft knew, and importantly Geffen knew, that people would find it and be playing it over and over and over again. I did, I loved it. It was like an entire music channel on my PC, just with one song. Actually, two, but we'll get to that in a minute. And it was genius because Buddy Holly had already been released a year prior, so it was hardly likely to affect single sales. In actuality, a whole new set of customers went out and bought Weezer's Blue Album, and very likely their follow-up, Pinkerton, in 1996. A new fanbase was being forged at exactly the same time as the new Windows fanbase. The New York Times, talking about these videos as operating system firsts, is just one story out of many which circulated, giving the OS just that extra bit of oomph. Not only did you get a new, easy-to-use internet-ready OS, you also got 2 free music videos to boot. With the launch of Windows 95, Microsoft fulfilled their deal, distributing Windows and Office licenses to Geffen. This enabled Jim to set up a class-leading web presence and intranet consisting of over 170 PCs and Macs, so that the company could have an improved customer digital experience, as well as allowing the company to better manage their data and employees. Before this point, they were having to connect up to parent company Universal's mainframe for some $2,500 per hour. Wood and Griffin had a clear vision of what digital music distribution could become, and how to go about it. In that sense, Windows 95 not only acted as a promo tool for them, but also helped push the company forward into this new digital age, an age that they had in many ways begun. After an equally as impressive career path, These days, Jim finds himself also in digital media as VP of Digital Rights at digital media company PEX. And so I guess that closes the story on Weezer and Windows 95. But wait, what about that extra video? Another entirely different track by Edie Brickell. This track was called Good Times. You remember. Now, Edie Brickell and New Bohemians had already had success in 1988 with their debut album Shooting Rubber Bands at the Stars, which landed at number 4 in the Billboard album charts. But by 94 had gone solo with the album Picture Perfect Morning, featuring the track Good Times. Like Buddy Holly, Good Times was released in 94, but peaked at number 60 in the USA and barely made a scratch abroad, meaning by 1995 it was barely remembered. So Windows 95 for Edie may not have spurred another huge commercial success, but it did in part resurrect Good Times, putting it firmly in the minds of almost everyone who used Windows 95 in the 90s. All in all, it was a huge win for both Geffen and Microsoft, and Weezer, of course, and all for the cost of a few hundred software licenses. Also, let's not forget that depending on the release of 95 you got, as long as it's not the floppy disk version, the Fun Stuff folder also contained a few other, less exciting videos. You might find a few animated Windows 95 trailers. Depending on region, you might find a trailer for 1995's Rob Roy as well. A somewhat more brazen marketing insert. If you had a powerful PC, you could even delve into the high perf directory and get videos which, although about twice the size, had much better sound quality. No horrible compressed shh sounds here, thankfully. By 1996, Microsoft had well and truly realised the power of the internet. The Plus pack may have included Internet Explorer 1, but 1996, August, saw it being incorporated as standard into the operating system through Service Pack 2. Of course, by then it was Internet Explorer 3, which was worlds apart from the first version based on Mosaic's Spyglass browser. Microsoft had managed to take an operating system and not only make it easy to use, but make it appealing, sexy even, and almost essential for the era we were heading into. With regular updates, it even managed to keep up with the times, until the glory that was Windows 98 arrived, showing us really what Windows 95 should have been in the first place. Windows 95 may have stirred incredible excitement, it may have shaken up the world of PCs, it may have been riddled with bugs and glitches, and it may have upset Apple, until Steve Jobs came and re-injected his own excitement. But that's what Microsoft does. Good times, bad times. Give me some of that. As for Buddy Holly, well, it made it into the Museum of Modern Art in 2011, and that in part is down to its inclusion with Windows 95. Until next time, I've been Nostalgia Nerd. Toodaloo.